So the Calgary real estate market is down just over 4%. Sales are down 13%, inventory is up, and migration is slowing. This all sounds like a disaster, right? Well, price stability and seasonal spring momentum give me hope and optimism for the rest of 2026. So at first glance, Calgary's residential market, it looks balanced heading into the spring. Sales, new listings, inventories, and prices all did tick upward month over month in March. But this is a seasonal pattern that we do see every year. Beneath that headline, though, there are two very different markets that are operating simultaneously. The detached segment, it's running tight with about 2 months of supply. And the condo market, well, that's running a bit loose with about 5 months of supply. Townhomes, they sit somewhere in the middle, more balanced conditions with about 3 months of supply on the market today. So what are the forces behind the softening? Well, number one is the record number of completions that are flooding the condo market. This is the biggest headwind that condo investors are seeing, the surge in new supply. There was nearly 1,800 units of condo inventory in March. This is approaching the record high that was set back in the 2008 financial crisis. There's simply more choice than demand can absorb at current prices and migration levels. So factor number two is a population slowdown. This is really spreading demand thin overall. You see, much of Calgary's recent price growth, well, it was fueled by strong interprovincial and international migration over the last couple of years. That tailwind has moderated significantly. You see, Alberta's population, it grew only by about 7,000 people in the first quarter of 2026. Now, this is amazing compared to the rest of Canada that actually saw a population decline, but way below the numbers, about 50,000 people a quarter that we saw previously in the last couple of years. The slower migration, it's reducing the pool of number of new entrants to the rental and ownership market, and the effect is more pronounced in the condo sector. This is where investors had anticipated, sustained tenant demand, more rentals demand. And with demand dispersed across a wider inventory, absorption rates have slowed, and the price pressure that we saw through 2021 to 2023, well, that has eased significantly. But signs are emerging of stability for the spring market. Despite the headwinds, there are reasons for cautious optimism, as we head into the historic strongest quarter for real estate activity in Calgary. The citywide benchmark, it actually rose nearly 1% month over month in March. This is incredible, considering we have seen monthly declines for several months, even years in a row. And this happened for all housing types, including condos. That hadn't happened before, for a very long time. So that stabilization, it matters. It suggests that the market is finding a floor in those segments, even as volume normalizes from 2024's elevated inventory levels. Spring typically brings higher buyer activity, more listings, but much more faster absorption and sales. So if that seasonal pattern holds, which I hope it does, it didn't in 2025, but if it does, then the pressure on detached inventory, well, it's only going to increase. But for those watching the condo sector like me, the question is whether spring demand is strong enough to meaningfully reduce that 5-month supply overhang that we're seeing. Because that needs to counterbalance the number of new condo deliveries that we're still going to see through 2026. This is a significant threshold to clear, but I'm cautiously optimistic. My prediction, Calgary's real estate market in early 2026, it's not a market in crisis. The condo sector, it is working through a supply correction, that was years in the making. We've seen a couple of years of record supply. But with the migration moderating, that adjustment, it's going to take a little bit of time. We're nearly 2 years into the correction already. But we're not heading back to 2020 prices, But I do think we're not going to see double-digit price gains either anytime soon. But I think the worst of the pain is over. So if you're an investor, sit tight, continue to rent out your unit, and just wait for another year or two. The fundamentals underpinning demand in Calgary, strong economy, good jobs, affordable lifestyle, they're all still solid. They have not changed. So set it and forget it. I think you'll look back 5 years from now and be very happy that you kept your investment. Let's take a look at the detailed Calgary condo stats for March of 2026. March saw 384 sales. This was a slight uptick from January and February, but significantly lower than the highs that we'd seen from previous years. Sales are really struggling to find a floor here. While the seasonal, spring bump is visible, Seeing the trend that we see pretty much every year, the volume is trailing well below that 500 plus sales level that we've seen in recent years. This really suggests to me that buyers are either priced out or more likely they're just waiting on the sidelines to see how much further prices are going to slide. New listings climbed to 885 in March, continuing an upward trend that we've seen through the year. What I'm seeing here, though, is sellers are really flooding the market. Whether it's investors offloading units or new completions hitting the resale market, the choice for buyers has expanded rapidly. And the spike in listings that we're seeing, this is really the primary engine behind the current shift in the market power. The sales to new listings ratio, that dropped to 43.4% in March. Any ratio below really 40 to 45 generally indicates a buyer's market. Since it's only 4 out of every 10 new listings are selling, the market is becoming saturated. This puts a lot of downward pressure on prices, and it gives buyers significant leverage in negotiations because there's so much supply. And this is perhaps the most important chart. Inventory hit nearly 1,800 units in March. This is nearly double the levels that we saw in 2022, 2023, and 2024. This is the most crowded the market has been in years, and we're actually approaching the 2008 financial crisis levels of inventory. For an investor, this means that if you want to sell your property, you have to price it aggressively to capture the limited pool of active buyers right now. Months of supply, we're currently sitting at about 4.6 months. This has been flat over the last month, but still significantly higher than the previous years. We moved from that sprint 1 to 2 months of supply in 2023 and 2024, really to more of a marathon now. At nearly 5 months, that market is considered oversupplied, and it'll continue to weigh on prices until this extra inventory is absorbed. We have seen days on market significantly drop from January and February of this year, declining all the way to 45 days in March. The flash sales that we saw over the past 2-3 years, where any property would sell in less than a month, those days are over. Sellers should really expect their units to sit on the market for at least a month and a half. And the chart that everyone cares about, the benchmark price. Benchmark in March was about $300,000. This has trended down from about $340,000 from the peaks that we saw in 2024. But what gives me hope that the market is at a bottom is that prices have really been stable through 2026 with very little change. They've just gone sideways. And prices have actually just ticked up ever so slightly month over month. And this is the first increase we've seen in over 18 months. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we're forming the bottom of the market here. So those are the March 2026 Calgary real estate stats. If you're considering buying, selling, or just unsure what to do with your portfolio, get in touch. I would love to review your situation so that we can develop a personalized plan for you, whether that's adding to your portfolio or a strategic exit from your investments. So please don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more real estate investing content, and thanks for watching.